Back when I was a young milk drinker, my dad was fairly strict, allowing me precious little time after school to go out and mess around with my mates, or sink that precious time into a fantastical game on my treasured PS2. I was allowed until 6 PM, no exceptions. I would power home on my push bike to maximise this time. I'd grab some snacks from the kitchen and turn on this magical black box. The few hours I was permitted slipped away like water through a sieve, and after the parental martial law had been imposed, all I could do was wish longingly for Final Fantasy X's Spira or the roaring engines of Need for Speed Most Wanted. As if I wasn't in love with gaming enough already, my best friend at the time had recently acquired an even more magical box, the Xbox 360 to be precise. He asked me to come over so he could show off its fancy new graphics, which at the time completely floored me. This was it. There was no way we could get any better than this. So enraptured was I by the torrent of raspberry jam plastered all over my screen as I hacked my way through some poor alien bastard with a rifle-mounted chainsaw, I immediately decided I had to have one. My own Xbox, that is, not a rifle-mounted chainsaw. During the many hours my friend and I spent playing co-op games like Gears of War, Earth Defense Force, Rainbow Six Vegas 2, Army of Two, he showed me a few other games too, not many of which I actually recall the name of, until he placed his controller in my hand and said, "Make a character and play this." Needless to say, I had no idea what genre this game was or anything about it. I vaguely remember making a character, a fairly generic one too if my memory serves me well, completing the tutorial and calmly proceeding to murder everyone in the entire Imperial City.
Divines, assault! By the gods, there's a sight.
I'm being attacked! Help the divine! I'm being attacked! You there, divine! Stop! Guard! Come on now! Stop! By the divine! There's a psychopath on the loose! Assault! You there, Helen! Stop! Someone's been murdered! Man down! Stop! You violated the law!
Of course I was a level 1 newbie, so I turned the difficulty all the way down as far as it would go. I remember enjoying the freedom. I remember my hand wasn't held, by the tutorial of course, and how goddamn beautiful this world was. Sadly, I didn't really have time to get into it, as I either had to head back for my obnoxious curfew or my friend wanted his Xbox back. At the time, I didn't even know what this game was called, but it stuck in my mind, and the next time I went to see my friend, I asked what game it was and if I could have another go. This time I saw the Bethesda logo precede perhaps one of the greatest theme songs I have ever heard, with big bold letters spelling The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I'd never heard of the Elder Scrolls before, but I was certainly curious as to what the previous 3 had been about. I continued with my generic character over the next hour or two and fell more in love with this game than I ever did with my first girlfriend. So naturally, all I talked about for the next 6 months is how much I wanted an Xbox. It seems I finally broke the sanity of my dad who bought me one for the next Christmas, and I was nothing short of ecstatic. I vividly remember, for lack of a better term, absolutely losing my shit when I unveiled the green box under a red Santa Claus paper. As far as I was concerned, on that one day, little 14-year-old me had the best dad on planet Earth. The sense of pure and absolute wonder when booting it up for the first time is something most adults spend their whole lives trying to recreate. The only game I had at the time was Cameo Elements of Power, and I played the hell out of it. I was fortunate that my friend that brought me into the Xbox fold kindly allowed me to borrow various Xbox games that he wasn't currently playing, and a few months down the line, he lent me it. The one, the only, Pac-Man Arcade. No, of course it was actually Oblivion. So reunited with my love, I gladly threw my limited after-school gaming hours into the astonishingly realised world of Cyrodiil. Even as a 25-year-old, 6'4" adult with a great big bushy beard, I still have that glossy map from the 360 copy upon my wall. My own copy, obviously, I didn't steal my friend's one. So enough about my life story, more about the game, eh? You might have stolen my heart when it was released, but is it still that great? Obviously the answer is yes, and you can click off the video now if that's all you care about. Just leave a like before you do, milk drinker. However, if you want to know why, then stick around and hear me gush about this slightly flawed masterpiece for another 20, 30, 50 minutes? I don't know how long this will be. It's only logical that we begin at the beginning. A new game in a new adventure? Nope, we're going to start in the game manual. There's an introductory message here from the developers to let you know what you're in for. The part that says, a game where you could be whoever you wanted and do whatever you wanted. Live another life in another world. It always seems so appropriate for Oblivion. Although limited by some technical limitations at the time, I feel if I were to try and sell this game to someone else, I would use this phrase, and it would prove to be true if they gave it a shot for long enough. However, in a slight contrast to this message, every Elder Scrolls game starts you off as a prisoner. I don't know why this is so, and I do find it a little strange that Bethesda chose this setting for a blank slate of a character in which you could be whatever you wanted within this world. Being imprisoned implies a certain moral alignment, regardless of the type of character you wish to play as. It is possible that you could justify it as a false imprisonment if you wish to play as a purely good character, but it still implies some previous behaviour that may not be perfectly in line with your role-playing plans. Perhaps it was the usual mix-up with the watch. Regardless, this is a tiny nitpick and will likely be forgotten a few hours into the game. Being an RPG, naturally there is a matrix of character creation sliders for you to spend an eternity on, designing the perfect character for you to eventually place an iron helmet on and never see again. The flexibility of the creation system here is pretty impressive and really does allow for creative depth. I mean, just look at this absolute beauty here, truly stunning. Oh. The different races aren't so drastically different in their statistics that they overrule their aesthetic differences. You can easily create a heavy armour wearing two-handed battle-axe Argonian, or a sneaky Nord who strikes from the shadows with a poison blade. One just may start slightly better at their associated skills than the other. Once your real-life Mona Lisa is complete, you are gifted with the Elder Scrolls tutorial, and some leering from this arsehole.
Wake up, kitty kitty. That's it. There's a rat in my cell, Khajiit. A fat, tasty rat. Does the kitty want it? Is the kitty hungry?
Soon after, you get a little bit of story set up from the sexiest voice in the game, Patrick fucking Stewart.
You. I've seen you. Let me see your face. You are the one from my dreams.
Better not close this one.
The section that follows is by far the most linear part of the entire game, perhaps not the best to begin with for a game about boundless freedom and exploration. For some reason, Paddy Stewart seems to think you are the prodigal son, and insists you to tag along as the Emperor and his guards make their way through a secret escape passage that you just so happen to be imprisoned next to. You're stuck dead in the middle of an assassination attempt on Paddy by the mythic Dawn, whoever that is, and that's why his guards are so damn edgy right now. After a few skirmishes, you get sent on your own way to learn how the game works, and for the most part it does a pretty good job. You get a chance to try all three combat types, melee, ranged and magic. You're also provided with a starter set for both light and heavy armour from various locations if you look around. There's also an introduction to lockpicking, alchemy and sneaking, allowing you to test some of the skills before you make a concrete decision on the type of character you wish to play. Eventually you reunite with the Emperor, Paddy and crew, and he tells you some mystical shit about being born under a certain sign.
I've served the Nine all my days, and I chart my course by the cycles of the heavens. The skies are marked with numberless sparks, each a fire, and every one a sign.
This is basically a trait you select that boosts you either through passive stat gain or an active ability that's usually limited to one in-game day. While there's a decent amount to choose from, some are just objectively better than others. The Apprentice sign, for example, gives you a 100 point boost to Magicka and makes you take double damage from magic. This will usually get you one shot by anything magical and anything but lower difficulties, and as a result is bloody awful. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have the Thief sign. Considered by many to be the best, it gives a flat boost of plus 10 to 3 attributes. Yes, 3. One of which is luck, the hardest attribute to level up in the game. This is the highest flat gain of any of the signs, with the closest contender being the Warrior, which provides 10 to strength and endurance. Due to this, I've always picked the Thief sign, and I'll do so for this playthrough with Mr. Hit by a Bus. I'll get onto how these attributes affect play and how they affect your skills later on. So now the Emperor continues to preach about how his imminent demise is near.
The signs I read show the end of my path. My death, a necessary end, will come when it will come.
In the Emperor's last words, he wills you to take this amulet to a lad called Joffrey.
Give it to Joffrey.
A monk who is the only other person alive and knows of a secret, illegitimate heir that naughty Paddy must have had on the side. Control is now completely taken away from the player as a Mythic Dawn member charges past you and one-shots poor old Paddy. Well shit, you had one job. Naturally, the guards who have done nothing but treat you like a little bitch up until this point, entrust you with the job and send you on your way.
You must get the amulet to Joffrey.
However, not before you get to make your class. Now your class is a set of skills you choose to define your leveling and playstyle. There are some preset classes to choose from, but I'm pretty sure the vast majority of players have made their own class, tailoring their exact skills they plan to use on their triple-digit hour playthrough, especially if it's not your first Oblivion rodeo. So class creation works something like this. You pick one of 3 specializations. It's sort of a blanket template that accelerates XP gain in certain skills. The 3 options are combat, magic and stealth, as you might have guessed. As I picked the Thief sign earlier, it only makes sense for me to pick the stealth specialization too, which increases the XP gain for the skills of acrobatics, light armor, marksman, mercantile, security, sneak and speechcraft. All skills you'd likely associate with being a sneaky boy. You then get to select 2 primary attributes that gain a flat plus 5 to each. This further highlights how amazing the Thief Sign is when your primary attributes for your entire class only allow 2 +5 boosts. In total there are 8 attributes, each governing different skills. For example, Strength governs the skills of Blunt, Blade and Hand to Hand, and Agility governs Marksman, Security and Sneak. Governing basically means that the higher these attributes, the higher the effectiveness of the skills it governs. So if you have a higher agility, you're better at sneaking, lockpicking, etc, etc. Out of all the skills in Oblivion, of which there are 21, 7 must be picked as major skills. Any major skill you select here not only increases faster, stacking with the XP bonus gained from the specialisation, but they are the sole means of levelling up your character throughout your journey. Allow me to elaborate. Skills in Oblivion level up through use, which is a brilliantly simple and intuitive mechanic. So you like doing a thing and you want to get better at the thing, just do the thing. It's not hard and everyone achieves progress organically, everything is peachy. At least it would be if that's all there was to it, but these pesky governing attributes have something to say about that. If these attributes affect how good you are at executing skills they govern, you want to level them up too, right? How do we do that? Whenever you level one of your 7 major skills, it counts as 1/10 of a level up. Do it 10 times, level up. Skills that are not your major skills, i.e. the rest you didn't pick, are aptly named minor skills and should not partake in binge drinking or gambling. Also, they do not count towards leveling. So you can level up these minor skills to your heart's content and you will never gain a level. The problem in this design comes from the moment you level up. Once you've hit your quota for 10 major skill increases, you'll be prompted to rest at a bed and meditate upon what you have learned. Doing so will level you up and you'll have the opportunity to make 3 selections to increase any of your attributes by 1 point. During this leveling you may notice you have up to +5 bonus for any given attribute. Now this is dictated by what skills you leveled up during that level and what attribute they're governed by. For example, if you had Sneak and Blade as your major skills and leveled up both of those 5 times to achieve your 10 skill increase requirement, you'll be able to achieve a bonus of +5 in both Strength and Agility. However, if you were to achieve all 10 skill increases in Blade, you'll be limited to a +5 bonus in Strength and miss out on a potential of +5 to another attribute. Now you may be thinking, well it might not be optimal, but it's not the end of the world, right? Actually it kind of is the end of the world. While I definitely agree with the sentiment of this comment that bonuses should be a bonus, not a requirement, there is a massive flaw with Oblivion's difficulty system that starts to reveal itself here. It's not the levelling system itself that's foobar, but it's the world scaling that is absolutely broken unless you level in a very specific way. As far as I can tell, the land of Cyrodiil and its hostile inhabitants scale according to a perfectly efficient levelling practice of +5 in the combat skills. This is highly unlikely for anyone to achieve unless they are intentionally playing in a very specific way. Not to mention, a large amount of these skills are not involved in combat at all. You've got Sneak, Speechcraft, Security, Mercantile and others that may still count towards your level if you've selected them as a major skill, but will not grant you any advantage during combat. As a result of this scaling system, each time you level up and think you're getting stronger, relative to all the other monsters in the entire game, you are getting weaker for not having leveling your skills like a robot. There are 3 ways around this slightly broken system. Not to say just because there are workarounds that this system is okay, mind you. The first way is to level perfectly. You only train the skills needed to get the maximum bonuses on the skills you absolutely need. This method just plain sucks. It takes all the fun out of the organic level by use system that I personally adore. You have to be meticulously careful to not level the wrong skill and screw up your perfect bonuses, to say goodbye to skills like athletics, which increases by walking, running, swimming, and the light and heavy armor skills, which increase by taking hits with your respective armor type equipped. If I wanted to min-max the shit out of everything and be an optimization god, I'd play Factorio again and lose another 600 hours of my life. Now the second way is to pick all the skills you actually want to use as minor skills, and pick the skills you will never use, not even passively, as major skills. This way you can still increase the skills you desire, meaning you'll never level up and avoid the scaling problem. However, the drawbacks to this method are huge. Loot in Oblivion scales to your level, so now you're stuck with basic bitch gear forever. Some of the quests here are also level locked, so you're denying yourself content. Lastly, your attributes will never increase, although this is balanced out by the way that your skills increase, causing you to do more damage and take less, but I still wouldn't suggest this way either. Last but not least, just turn the difficulty down. I'm certain this is the method the vast majority of us have used during our time with the game. I've used the hell out of it on the 360. However, it's horrendously unrewarding to do so. Having to tone down the difficulty when your character is meant to be evolving into a badass hero really denies all sense of progression. Fortunately for Bethesda, I was so enthralled by Cyrodiil that turning down that little slider to make combat possible again was a small price to pay to be in such a captivating universe. I know I've ranted on about what might seem insignificant to a lot of players, but you sign up for this, so deal with it. It also might be one of the biggest criticisms about this title from hardcore long-term fans like myself and many of my friends. I think it might be worth noting that if you have a copy of Oblivion on PC, there is an absolutely godly mod by the name of Realistic Leveling that fixes the entire system. I won't go into too much detail about mods, as I wanted to make this video primarily about the base game and use it as an excuse to bask in all the warm nostalgic memories I have for this game and the times it makes me recall, like tying a rubber band around my controller and leaving it on all night swimming into a wall to level my athletics skill. Okay, I'm almost done talking about level and scaling, but there is one more issue here. Certain items found throughout your travels and certain rewards given by NPCs for quest completion are tailored to your level to stop them being overpowered and one-shotting everything or being entirely useless if you get them too late. Sounds great on paper, right? Until you realise they don't scale with you after you obtain them. This essentially makes the same reward from the same quest have night and day differences depending on what level you are when you finish it. Let me show you this chart from the wiki for my personal favourite weapon, Duskfang or Dawnfang. If you're capable of reading, I'm sure you can see quite the difference. This sword is absolutely phenomenal, but if you gain it at level 1, 30 hours down the line when you're level 25, you'd wish you had waited. However, as a new player, this system is not mentioned, ever. You must notice it for yourself or hear about it some other way. It's another way that repeated playthroughs are almost forced to be streamlined or played in a certain way to get the optimised result. Thankfully, it's mods to the rescue again, with Quest Award Leveler fixing this problem entirely, updating the weapon as you level up. Okay, I'm done talking about scaling now, I swear. The rest of the tutorial is a small dungeon that eventually ends in a tunnel leading to the glorious outside world. A nice consideration made here is that you're offered a chance to change anything about your character before you leave and start the game for real. It is strongly advised you make a save here. It essentially allows you to make a new character and start here, rather than back in your prison cell, skipping the tutorial entirely. The task of covering a game of this size is best taken in stages, don't you think? I've decided to break down this retrospective review into parts, so hopefully it will help deliver better videos with more focused writing. You can consider this the end of part 1. Thanks for sticking with me so far, you are awesome. You can either subscribe with the usual button or throw some loose change at me via my Patreon. I'll see you in part 2, where we discuss the world, characters and music of The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion.